Hello class, welcome to Like Now But Worse, the only show on the internet in what can only reasonably be described as the aftermath of my video on the Titanic. I received the greatest series of comments that I have ever been a part of. Sorry Wes, we still love you, but this is on another level. The following is a dramatic recreation of the aforementioned exchange.
The Rothschild family took out the Titanic. Look into it. Hashtag shilling.
I had to look that one up. According to Urban Dictionary, a shill, in conspiracy terms, is a person who pretends to agree with a conspiracy and perpetuates false information or acts totally insane in an attempt to discredit said conspiracy. Shills are often thought to be hired by the government, but they don't necessarily have to be. Nkarfunkle, that is just crazy enough to make a fabulous episode. Do you have any sources you can recommend? Also, if we make this into an episode, can we mention you as having given us the idea? I never got an answer for that one, but that ship seems to have set sail.
Considering the Business Insider had to rehash an article to debunk, that's enough solid evidence for me. Also, it is worth mentioning that the Rothschild family took out flight MH370 for patents on some tech. The rabbit hole goes deep, my friends. Sincerely, your favorite crypto Jew from New York. It's not a phase.
I'm not sure what a crypto Jew is, but rest assured, you absolutely are my favorite one. I don't think you all knew this about me, but presenting me with a conspiracy theory and asking me to look into it is like presenting a dog with a tub of barbecue sauce and asking him to destroy your house. But no matter. I just hope you realized what you were getting into when you posted that, because there are no takebacks on this show. I don't know if I can truly convey how happy I am that someone gave me the excuse to look up conspiracy theories all day. Needless to say, I've had the time of my life, and I owe it all to Nkarfunkle. Here's how this episode is going to work. I will judge this theory the way I judge all theories that I come across, looking at if they could have happened, physically or scientifically, and if they would have happened, logically. And these are just my criteria, and they tend to have the same effect on lackluster conspiracies as an obese man has on poorly constructed wicker furniture. The theory goes that the Rothschild family, in conjunction with J.P. Morgan and other like-minded individuals, sank the Titanic to kill Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Straus, and John Jacob Astor, who opposed the new Federal Reserve because they'd prefer not to have quite so many obstacles. And like when you want to cover up breaking somebody's window by burning their house down, clearly it was the perfect crime. There are several sites that perpetuate this theory, but for the sake of simplicity, I will be using an article from Disclose.tv entitled Titanic Accident, orchestrated by the Rothschilds to come into power. Come in power. Ew. For the simple reason that it covers every major point of this delightful conspiracy without getting too anti-Semitic about it. It also includes a video from #TruthSeeker on YouTube, who is a lot of fun if you enjoy someone making wild accusations and constantly mispronouncing common names, which personally I do. The basis of this theory is that the three men from before, who would be worth a collective $11 billion today, were convinced to ride the Titanic, which they were, that J.P. Morgan owned the Titanic, which he did, and that Morgan suddenly canceled his trip on the Titanic, which he also did. These factors, combined with the shortage of lifeboats, make the whole thing smell pretty fishy, although that may be for other, more literal reasons. Another major point is that the sinking of the Titanic bears some spooky similarities to an 1898 novella entitled Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, in which a large, seemingly unsinkable ship tries to befriend an iceberg with less than ideal results. The theory itself states that the Rothschilds, Morgan, and the Jesuits, for some reason, united to recreate the wreck from that very book. Unlike the 9/11 jet fuel thing, there are no details of this theory that can be dismantled through the liberal application of science. In that regard, this theory is totally plausible.
But how does it hold up logically?
He asked, as though he hadn't written this ahead of time. Taking each point step by step, certain things seem far less sinister. For example, those poor rich bastards were invited to take part in the maiden voyage of the Titanic, much like many other prominent, wealthy, and ultimately doomed members of society, because to have anything less would be considered a marketing disaster in addition to just like a regular one. As well, old Jeezy Peasy did kind of own the Titanic, but in a really, roundabout sort of way. His company financed the International Mercantile and Marine Company, which owned the White Star Line, and they owned the Titanic. It's like a really boring naval-themed Russian nesting doll. They were all financially boned by the sinking of the Titanic. In addition, Mr. Morgan did in fact cancel his trip, just like a large number of the other passengers, due to the coal strike that was going on in the United Kingdom at the time. At any other time, the maiden voyage of the Titanic would have been completely sold out. It was only at 2/3 capacity. As for the lifeboat situation, at the time of the incident, the Titanic actually had more lifeboats on board than were required by law. Lifeboats were only ever used to ferry passengers from a sinking vessel to safety in small groups, not all at once. As such, there were no regulations that required enough lifeboats for everyone on board until the Titanic sank and made that seem like a really good idea. And aside from some unnecessary roughness with an iceberg, Captain Edward Smith didn't actually break any laws or violate any naval regulations on his final voyage. These, of course, don't disprove anything, because proving that something didn't happen is literally impossible. But there is still one thing to consider. Why, with all the money and power at the tips of their diabolical fingers, wouldn't or couldn't they spend or lose so much less money to just hire somebody to kill them? It is so much easier to not kill 1,500 people and the largest ship ever built, when all of my scientific research leads me to believe that Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Straus, and John Jacob Astor were in fact only 3 people. Remember, this was a time in history where if you weren't still there committing a crime when the police showed up, you were virtually guaranteed to get away with it. You wouldn't even have to kill them all at once. Here's a plan that would have worked and would have been arguably less conspicuous than sinking the largest ship ever built and killing an extra 1,500 people. Step 1. You take a set of... The same modus operandi, whatever the hell that means. Any rich person or family or the Jesuits, for some reason, could have gotten away with any number of murders by doing that in those days. Come to think of it, that'll probably still work now, which is awful and makes me really sad in my heart. So where did we land on this one? Physically, it could have happened, although logically, I'm not convinced. Hashtag shillin' like a villain. I can still see future commenters asking,
But what about all the similarities in the wreck of the patent? Do you mean to tell me that's all just a coincidence?
yeah, any questions? Hello, welcome to the question round for Like Now But Worse. I'm in a truck. His name is Trent. So yeah, we don't have a traditional banter round dealio this week because of some footage that went missing under mysterious circumstances. So I'm doing this instead. We have a question from one Malicious the Vicious, aka Sassy Sport, or Sassafras. There's a lot of sass going on is what I'm saying. But her question is...
What about the fires that started below deck on the Titanic?
Yes, what about those indeed? You see, the Titanic was run exclusively on coal, which, as you know, is a rock that catches fire. So there were a lot of fires going on below deck pretty much all the time. They ran the engine. Fires probably started because they were going so fast and shoveling so much coal into the furnaces. Yeah, that would just spill out around the ground. So yeah. Bye. Or actually not bye, because remember to like and subscribe and share this with people. So, yeah, have a good day.